In the heart of a lively city filled with towering buildings and endless streams of people rushing to their destinations, there was a man named Dr. Adrian Carter. He was known far and wide as one of the sharpest minds in the world of mathematics. A professor at Elmridge University, he taught advanced calculus, a subject so difficult that even the brightest students often found themselves struggling to keep up. Dr. Carter had earned his reputation not just through his deep understanding of numbers but also through his intimidating presence. His sharp eyes missed nothing, and his voice carried an authority that made students sit up straight whenever he entered a room. Many admired him, but just as many feared him. One crisp autumn afternoon, Dr. Carter decided to take a break from his usual routine of lectures and research papers. He walked to a small coffee shop located near the university campus. It was a cozy place, filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the soft hum of conversations. Students huddled over laptops, professors chatted quietly, and baristas worked tirelessly behind the counter. For Dr. Carter, it was a perfect spot to relax for a while and clear his mind. Little did he know, this visit would lead to an encounter that would challenge everything he thought he knew about intelligence and humility. As he stood in line waiting for his order, his attention drifted toward a woman sitting by the large window. She looked different from the typical crowd that frequented the cafe. Her clothes were simple, a plain hoodie paired with worn-out jeans, and her hair was tied back in a loose ponytail. There was nothing remarkable about her appearance, yet something caught Dr. Carter's eye, the way she was completely absorbed in whatever she was doing. Her head was bent low over a notebook, and her hand moved swiftly across the pages, jotting down symbols and equations that most people wouldn't recognize. Dr. Carter squinted slightly, trying to get a better look. From where he stood, he could see fragments of what she was writing, mathematical formulas, integrals, and derivatives. At first glance, they seemed basic, but as he observed more closely, he realized they weren't ordinary calculations. They were complex, layered, and hinted at a level of understanding that intrigued him. Intrigued and perhaps a little skeptical, Dr. Carter felt a spark of curiosity ignite within him. Who was this woman? Was she a student, a teacher, or simply someone passing time with random scribbles? After collecting his coffee, Dr. Carter hesitated for a moment before deciding to approach her table. He told himself it was purely professional interest. He wanted to know if she truly understood what she was working on. But deep down, there was another motive, one he might not have admitted even to himself. He wanted to test her, to see if she was as smart as her notes suggested or if she was merely pretending to grasp concepts beyond her reach. With a confident stride, he walked over to her table and placed his cup down gently, drawing her attention. "Excuse me," he said, his tone polite but tinged with arrogance. The woman looked up, startled by the interruption. Her eyes widened slightly as she took in the sight of the well-dressed man standing before her. "I couldn't help but notice you're working on some interesting problems," Dr. Carter continued, gesturing toward her notebook. "Mind if I ask what you're tackling?" The woman blinked, clearly unsure how to respond. After a brief pause, she nodded and replied softly, "Just practicing some math." Her voice was calm, almost shy, but there was a steadiness to it that suggested confidence beneath the surface. Dr. Carter raised an eyebrow. "Practicing?" he repeated, as though the word itself amused him. "That's quite ambitious of you. Not many people spend their free time wrestling with calculus." He paused, leaning slightly closer to examine her work. "Tell me, do you actually understand what you're writing, or are you just copying? Formulas from a textbook?" His question hung in the air, loaded with condescension. The woman's expression didn't change much, though a flicker of determination crossed her face. Without saying a word, she turned her notebook slightly so he could see it better. Dr. Carter scanned the page, his brow furrowing as he processed the complexity of the equations. They were indeed advanced, far more intricate than anything he'd expect to see outside of a graduate-level classroom. Yet, they were written with precision, each step flowing logically into the next. Impressed despite himself, Dr. Carter decided to push further. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a napkin and a pen. Scribbling quickly, he wrote down a calculus problem, one that he considered nearly unsolvable without hours of effort. It was a challenge designed to stump even the brightest minds, a puzzle meant to separate the amateurs from the experts. When he finished, he slid the napkin across the table toward her. "Here," he said, his lips curling into a smug smile. "Let's see if you can handle this. Solve it, and maybe I'll believe you're as good as your notes suggest." For a moment, the woman simply stared at the napkin, her expression unreadable. Then slowly she reached out and picked it up. Her fingers traced the edges of the paper as she studied the problem intently. Dr. Carter watched her closely, expecting hesitation or confusion. Instead, she surprised him. A faint smile played on her lips, as though the challenge amused her, rather than intimidated her. Without another word, she grabbed a pen from her bag and began solving the problem right then and there. Dr. Carter leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms as he observed her work. Time seemed to slow as the woman tackled the equation with remarkable speed and accuracy. Each stroke of her pen revealed a mind that operated with clarity and purpose. She didn't falter or second-guess herself. Every step she took was deliberate and precise. Within minutes, she had completed the solution and pushed the napkin back toward him. Dr. Carter picked it up, his eyes scanning the work with growing astonishment. Not only had she solved the problem correctly, but she had done so using techniques that were both innovative and efficient, methods he hadn't seen before, or at least not executed with such elegance. For the first time in years, he felt genuinely stunned. This woman, who appeared so unassuming, had demonstrated a level of mathematical skill that rivaled his own. Unable to hide his surprise, Dr. Carter looked up at her. "Who are you?" he asked bluntly, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Where did you learn to solve problems like this?" The woman chuckled softly, seemingly unfazed by his reaction. "My name is Emily Dawson," she replied, her tone calm and measured. "And I guess you could say I've been studying math for a long time." Her answer only deepened the mystery. How could someone with such talent remain unknown? Why wasn't she teaching or publishing papers or making waves in the academic world? Questions swirled in Dr. Carter's mind, and for the first time in a long while, he felt genuinely curious about someone other than himself. Dr. Carter's curiosity burned brighter than ever as he sat across from Emily Dawson, the woman who had just solved one of the most challenging calculus problems he'd ever devised. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her story, something hidden beneath her quiet demeanor and simple appearance. Determined to uncover the truth, he leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on the table. "Emily," he began, his tone softer now, less condescending and more earnest. "You're clearly no ordinary person. How did you learn all this? Where did you study?" Emily hesitated for a moment, her fingers tracing the edge of the napkin she had used to solve the problem. She seemed to be weighing her words carefully, as if deciding how much of herself she wanted to reveal. Finally she spoke, her voice steady but tinged with a hint of nostalgia. "I didn't go to college," she admitted, meeting his gaze briefly before looking down again. "At least, not for long." Dr. Carter frowned, puzzled. "Not for long?" he echoed. "What do you mean?" Emily sighed softly, her expression distant as memories flooded back. "When I was younger, I loved math. It came naturally to me, like breathing. In high school, I was at the top of my class. Teachers said I had potential, real talent. I even won a scholarship to a prestigious university." Her lips curved into a faint smile at the memory, but it quickly faded. "But life got in the way." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "My family didn't have much money. My mom worked 2 jobs just to keep us afloat, and when she got sick, I had to step up. I dropped out of college after the first semester to take care of her and pay the bills. There wasn't any time left for classes or exams, so I started working odd jobs, waitressing, cleaning offices, anything I could find, but even then I never stopped loving math." Dr. Carter listened intently, his initial skepticism giving way to genuine interest. "So what did you do?" he asked, his voice gentle. How did you keep learning without school? Emily shrugged modestly. Books, mostly. Libraries became my sanctuary. I'd spend hours reading textbooks and solving problems in my notebook. And later, when the internet became more accessible, I found online courses and forums where people discussed advanced topics. It wasn't easy. I had to teach myself everything, but it was worth it. Math gave me something to hold on to during tough times. It made me feel alive. Her words struck a chord in Dr. Carter. For all his years of teaching and mentoring students, he realized he had rarely encountered someone with such raw passion for mathematics. Most of his colleagues pursued the subject out of ambition or a desire for recognition, but Emily's love for math seemed pure, untainted by external pressures. It reminded him of why he had fallen in love with the field in the first place. Still, questions lingered in his mind. If you're this talented, why haven't you tried to re-enter academia? He pressed gently. You could be making waves in the mathematical community. Why stay hidden? Emily's smile turned wistful. It's not that simple, she explained. Even though I've learned a lot on my own, I don't have a degree. No formal credentials. People see that and assume I'm not qualified. Besides, I've gotten used to living quietly. Solving equations in a coffee shop isn't glamorous, but it's enough for me. Dr. Carter shook his head, his frustration evident. That's absurd, he said firmly. Talent like yours shouldn't be wasted. The world needs minds like yours, people who can push boundaries and explore new ideas. You shouldn't let fear or doubt hold you back. Emily raised an eyebrow, amused by his sudden intensity. You sound awfully passionate about this, she teased lightly. Why does it matter so much to you? For a moment, Dr. Carter was silent. He stared into his coffee cup, contemplating her question. Truthfully, he wasn't sure why he felt so invested. Maybe it was because he saw a reflection of his younger self in her, a version of himself that hadn't yet been jaded by years of academic politics and ego clashes. Or maybe it was because he recognized the injustice of her situation. Whatever the reason, he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't walk away and leave her brilliance buried. Because it matters, he replied finally, his voice firm. Because the world deserves to know what you're capable of. And because, he hesitated, then added with a small smile, because I think you might actually be better than me. Emily laughed, the sound warm and genuine. Now that's hard to believe, she said, shaking her head. You're Dr. Adrian Carter, one of the best mathematicians in the country. How could I possibly compare? Dr. Carter waved off her compliment. Don't sell yourself short, he insisted. From what I've seen today, you're extraordinary, and if you're willing to trust me, I'd like to help you take the next step. Let me introduce you to the right people. Give you opportunities to showcase your skills. Who knows? Maybe one day, you'll be the one teaching calculus instead of sitting here scribbling in a notebook. Emily's eyes widened in surprise. She hadn't expected such an offer, especially from someone like Dr. Carter. For years, she had resigned herself to living in the shadows, content with her quiet existence. But now, faced with the possibility of stepping into the spotlight, she felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Could she really do it? Could she break free from the constraints that had held her back for so long? I don't know, she admitted, cautiously. It sounds amazing, but I'm not sure I'm ready for that kind of change. What if I fail? What if people laugh at me? Dr. Carter reached across the table, placing a reassuring hand on hers. Failure is part of the process, he said earnestly. Every great mathematician has stumbled along the way, but they kept going because they believed in themselves and in their work. If you're willing to try, I promise I'll support you every step of the way. Emily looked at him, searching his face for any sign of insincerity. All she found was determination and kindness. Slowly, a smile spread across her lips. Okay, she said softly. Let's give it a shot. Dr. Carter grinned, feeling a sense of excitement he hadn't experienced in years. Little did either of them know, this decision would set off a chain of events that would change both their lives forever. The days following their meeting at the coffee shop were a whirlwind for Emily Dawson. Dr. Adrian Carter wasted no time in making good on his promise to help her step into the academic world. True to his word, he became her guide, mentor, and advocate, determined to ensure that her talent wouldn't remain hidden any longer. He began by arranging a private meeting with the head of the mathematics department at Elmridge University, Professor Helen Grayson, a woman known for her sharp mind and open-minded approach to unconventional talent. When Emily walked into Professor Grayson's office for the first time, she felt a mix of excitement and nerves. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched the folder Dr. Carter had helped her prepare, a collection of her most impressive solutions and proofs. She had spent hours organizing it, double-checking every equation to make sure it was flawless. Still, doubt lingered in her mind. Would they see her work as valuable? Or would they dismiss her because she lacked formal qualifications? Dr. Carter noticed her hesitation and gave her an encouraging nod. "You've got this," he whispered, before stepping aside to let her take the lead. Emily took a deep breath and began explaining her work to Professor Grayson. At first, her voice wavered, but as she delved deeper into the complexities of her solutions, her confidence grew. She spoke passionately about the methods she had developed on her own, how she approached problems differently from traditional techniques, and why she believed her ideas could contribute to ongoing research. Professor Grayson listened intently, her eyes scanning the pages Emily presented. When Emily finished, there was a long pause. For a moment, Emily feared the worst, that her efforts would be deemed insufficient or amateurish. But then, Professor Grayson leaned back in her chair and smiled. "This is remarkable," she said, her tone filled with genuine admiration. "Your insights are fresh, innovative, and incredibly promising. We need minds like yours in our department." Emily blinked, stunned by the praise. It was the first time anyone outside of Dr. Carter had acknowledged her ability so openly. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away, not wanting to appear weak. "Thank you," she managed to say, her voice trembling with emotion. I wasn't sure if anyone would take me seriously." Professor Grayson chuckled warmly. "Oh, we're taking you very seriously," she replied. "In fact, I'd like to offer you a position as a research assistant here at the university. You'll have access to our resources, collaborate with top mathematicians, and even present your findings at conferences. What do you say?" Emily glanced at Dr. Carter, who gave her an enthusiastic thumbs up. She turned back to Professor Grayson and nodded. "I'd love to," she said, her heart racing with excitement. "Thank you for believing in me." As weeks turned into months, Emily settled into her new role at the university. At first, she felt out of place among the polished academics who wore tailored suits and carried leather briefcases. She still dressed simply, preferring comfort over style, and often second-guessed herself when surrounded by people who had earned multiple degrees from prestigious institutions. But Dr. Carter and Professor Grayson continued to support her, reminding her that intelligence and creativity mattered more than appearances. Emily threw herself into her work, pouring hours into solving challenging problems and collaborating with other researchers. Her unique perspective brought fresh energy to the team, sparking discussions and debates that led to breakthroughs. One of her early projects involved refining a mathematical model used to predict weather patterns. While others had struggled to simplify the calculations, Emily approached the problem with a completely different mindset, streamlining the process and improving accuracy. The results were groundbreaking, earning praise from colleagues and solidifying her place in the department. Despite her growing success, Emily faced moments of self-doubt. There were times when imposter syndrome crept in, whisper-7ing cruel thoughts. In her ear, "You don't belong here. They'll figure out you're a fraud." During those moments, she found solace in talking to Dr. Carter. He always reminded her that everyone, no matter how accomplished, felt insecure at some point. Even Einstein doubted himself sometimes, he joked during one particularly tough day. And look where he ended up. Slowly but surely, Emily began to believe in herself. She realized that her journey wasn't defined by where she came from or what credentials she held. It was about the passion and dedication she brought to her work. That realization freed her to focus on what truly mattered, pushing boundaries and making discoveries. News of Emily's achievements spread quickly throughout the university. Students started hearing whispers about the hidden genius, who had risen from obscurity to become a key player in cutting-edge research. Curiosity piqued, many attended her lectures and workshops, eager to learn from someone whose story inspired them. Unlike some professors who lectured in monotone voices and scribbled incomprehensible formulas on the board, Emily connected with her audience. She broke down complex concepts into simple terms, using real-life examples to illustrate abstract ideas. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and soon, her classes became some of the most popular on campus. One student, a shy freshman named Mia, approached Emily after a particularly engaging lecture. "Ms. Dawson?" she asked hesitantly, clutching her notebook. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," Emily replied with a warm smile. "What's on your mind?" Mia hesitated before blurting out, "How did you get so good at math?" "I mean, I want to be like you someday, but I'm not sure I'm smart enough." Emily's expression softened. She remembered feeling the same way years ago, doubting whether she belonged in the world of mathematics. Sitting down beside Mia, she shared bits of her own story, the struggles, the sacrifices, and the joy of discovering beauty in numbers. "It's not about being the smartest person in the room," Emily explained gently. "It's about loving what you do and never giving up, no matter how hard it gets. If you keep trying, you'll surprise yourself." Mia left the conversation feeling inspired, vowing to work harder and embrace challenges instead of fearing them. Emily didn't realize it at the time, but that small interaction marked the beginning of something bigger. As word of her mentoring spread, more students sought her guidance, seeing her not just as a brilliant mathematician but also as a role model who understood their fears and aspirations. Meanwhile, Dr. Carter watched Emily's transformation with pride. He had always considered himself a teacher, but watching Emily thrive reminded him of the true purpose of education: to uplift and empower others. Seeing her inspire young minds reignited his own passion for teaching, prompting him to adopt a more compassionate approach in his classes. Instead of intimidating students with tough questions, he encouraged them to think critically and explore ideas without fear of failure. Their partnership blossomed into a friendship built on mutual respect and admiration. They spent countless hours discussing theories, debating solutions, and brainstorming new projects. Together, they co-authored several papers, combining Emily's innovative methods with Dr. Carter's extensive knowledge. Their collaboration yielded results that garnered attention not only within the university, but also in the broader mathematical community. By the end of her first year at Elmridge, Emily had gone from being an unknown woman scribbling equations in a coffee shop to a respected figure in academia. Yet despite her newfound fame, she remained humble, always crediting her success to the opportunities she had been given and the people who had believed in her. For Emily, the journey was far from over. It was only the beginning of a life dedicated to unraveling the mysteries of mathematics and inspiring others to join her quest. As Emily Dawson's reputation grew, so did the demands on her time. Invitations to speak at conferences poured in from universities and institutions around the world. At first, she hesitated, unsure if she was ready to step onto such prominent stages. The thought of addressing large crowds filled her with anxiety, but Dr. Adrian Carter encouraged her, reminding her that sharing her knowledge could inspire others and open doors for future opportunities. Her first major presentation was at an international mathematics symposium held in Paris. Standing backstage, Emily felt her heart pounding as she listened to the speaker before her wrap up their talk. She clutched her notes tightly, rehearsing key points in her head. When her name was announced, she took a deep breath and walked onto the stage. The bright lights blinded her momentarily, but as she looked out at the sea of faces, she spotted Dr. Carter sitting in the front row, giving her a reassuring smile. That small gesture steadied her nerves. Emily began speaking slowly, choosing each word carefully. She started by sharing her personal journey, how she had fallen in love with math as a child, faced hardships that forced her to leave school, and continued learning on her own through books and online resources. Her story resonated with the audience, many of whom nodded in understanding or whispered to their neighbors about her resilience. As she transitioned into explaining her groundbreaking work, her confidence soared. Her explanations were clear and engaging, filled with analogies that made even the most complex ideas accessible. By the end of her presentation, the room erupted into applause, and several attendees approached her afterward to express their admiration. That moment marked a turning point for Emily. She realized that her story wasn't just about her. It was about showing others that brilliance can emerge from unexpected places. Whether it was a struggling student or a seasoned academic, people connected with her message of perseverance and passion. With every conference and lecture, Emily honed her skills as a speaker, becoming more comfortable in the spotlight while staying true to herself. Back at Elmridge University, Emily's influence continued to ripple through the campus. Students flocked to her office hours, eager to seek advice not only on math but also on overcoming obstacles in their lives. She became known for her patience and empathy, always taking the time to listen and offer guidance. One day, a student named Alex came to her with tears in his eyes. He confessed that he felt overwhelmed by the pressure to succeed and was considering dropping out of the program. Emily invited him to sit down and shared her own struggles with self-doubt and fear of failure. "You're not alone in feeling this way," she told him gently. "Every great mathematician has moments when they question themselves. The difference is whether you choose to keep going despite those doubts." She encouraged him to focus on the joy of solving problems rather than the fear of making mistakes. Over the next few weeks, Alex returned to her office regularly, reporting progress in his studies and renewed determination to finish his degree. Stories like Alex's reminded Emily of why she had agreed to join academia in the first place. It wasn't just about advancing her own career. It was about creating a supportive environment where others could thrive. Her presence inspired faculty members as well. Professors who had once dismissed unconventional approaches to teaching began incorporating elements of her style into their lectures, making classes more interactive and inclusive. Dr. Carter, too, found himself transformed by Emily's impact. For years, he had prided himself on being one of the toughest professors at Elmridge, someone whose rigorous standards pushed students to excel. But working alongside Emily taught him the value of kindness and encouragement. He noticed how her positive reinforcement brought out the best in people, fostering creativity and confidence. Inspired by her example, he softened his approach, focusing less on intimidating students and more on nurturing their potential. Their collaboration extended beyond mentoring students and rethinking teaching methods. Together, they embarked on ambitious research projects that challenged existing theories and explored uncharted areas of mathematics. One of their most notable endeavors involved developing algorithms to optimize renewable energy systems. Their work caught the attention of environmental organizations and tech companies, leading to partnerships that applied their findings in real-world scenarios. This practical application of abstract concepts thrilled Emily, who had always believed that math should serve humanity. Despite their successes, both Emily and Dr. Carter remained grounded. They celebrated milestones quietly, preferring to channel their energy into new challenges rather than basking in past achievements. Yet there were moments when they allowed themselves to reflect on how far they had come. Late one evening, after finishing a particularly grueling project, they sat together in Dr. Carter's office, sipping coffee and reminiscing about their journey. "I never imagined I'd be here," Emily admitted, staring out the window at the twinkling city lights. "When we first met, I thought you were just another arrogant professor trying to prove a point." Dr. Carter chuckled, raising his cup in mock salute. "And I thought you were just some random person scribbling equations in a coffee shop," he replied. "Turns out we were both wrong." They laughed, the sound echoing softly in the quiet room. In that moment, they acknowledged the profound connection they had forged, not just as colleagues but as friends who had grown together through shared experiences and mutual respect. As months turned into years, Emily's contributions to mathematics earned her recognition beyond academia. Awards and honors followed, each one validating her decision to step out of the shadows and embrace her role as a leader in her field. Yet, none of these accolades meant as much to her as the letters and emails she received from individuals whose lives she had touched. A high school teacher wrote to thank her for inspiring his students to pursue STEM careers. A single mother shared how Emily's story gave her hope that she could return to school and chase her dreams despite her circumstances. For Emily, these messages were a reminder of the power of representation. Growing up, she had rarely seen people like herself, people without privilege or formal credentials, succeeding in fields dominated by elites. Now, she stood as proof that intelligence and hard work transcended barriers. Her journey became a beacon of possibility, encouraging others to believe in their own potential. Through it all, Emily never forgot her roots. On weekends, she still visited the same coffee shop where Dr. Carter had first challenged her with that calculus problem. Sitting by the window, she would sip her favorite latte and jot down ideas in her notebook, just as she had done years ago. Sometimes strangers would recognize her and strike up conversations, asking for advice or simply expressing gratitude. Each interaction reinforced her belief that everyone, no matter their background, deserved a chance to shine. Emily's rise from obscurity to prominence wasn't just a testament to her genius. It was a celebration of resilience, humility, and the transformative power of believing in oneself. And as she looked toward the future, she knew that her greatest achievements were yet to come. As Emily Dawson's influence continued to grow, her presence began to ripple beyond the walls of Elmridge University and into communities around the world. Her story had captured the imagination of people from all walks of life: students, educators, professionals, and even those who had never considered themselves interested in mathematics. What made her journey so compelling wasn't just her brilliance, it was the way she carried herself with humility and grace, always emphasizing that success was not reserved for the privileged or formally educated. This message resonated deeply with countless individuals who felt unseen or underestimated by society. One day, while preparing for a lecture at a local high school, Emily received an email that stopped her in her tracks. It was from a young girl named Sophia, a sixth grader, living in a small town hours away. In the email, Sophia explained how much she loved math but often felt discouraged because none of her classmates shared her passion. "I'm scared I'll never be good enough," Sophia wrote. "But then I read about you, and I thought maybe I could do something amazing too." Emily stared at the screen, her heart swelling with emotion. She remembered feeling the same way as a child, excited by numbers and equations, but unsure if anyone would take her seriously. Without hesitation, she replied to Sophia, encouraging her to keep exploring her interests and reminding her that being different was a strength, not a weakness. "The world needs more people like you," Emily wrote. "Don't let anyone tell you that your dreams are too big." Over the next few weeks, Emily and Sophia exchanged several emails. Emily shared tips on solving problems, recommended books, and online resources, and even sent Sophia a handwritten note of encouragement. The young girl's gratitude poured through every response, and soon, Emily realized that their connection went beyond mentorship. It was a bond forged by shared curiosity and determination. Inspired by Sophia's enthusiasm, Emily decided to expand her outreach efforts. She partnered with Dr. Adrian Carter to create a program called Math Without Limits, aimed at providing underprivileged students with access to quality education and mentorship opportunities. The initiative included workshops, tutoring, sessions, and scholarships for promising young minds. They also launched a website featuring free lessons, interactive tools, and stories of individuals who had overcome adversity to succeed in STEM fields. Emily hoped that by sharing diverse narratives, they could inspire others to pursue their passions without fear. The launch of Math Without Limits drew widespread attention, attracting volunteers, donors, and supporters from across the globe. Local businesses donated supplies, teachers offered their expertise, and alumni of Elmridge University volunteered to mentor participants. Even tech giants took notice, contributing funding and resources to ensure the program's sustainability. Within months, hundreds of students were enrolled, eager to learn and grow under Emily's guidance. One of the most impactful aspects of the program was its focus on hands-on learning. Instead of relying solely on textbooks and lectures, Emily encouraged students to tackle real-world problems using mathematics. For example, one project involved designing sustainable housing solutions for low-income neighborhoods. Students worked in teams to calculate costs, optimize materials, and minimize environmental impact. Not only did this approach make math more engaging, but it also demonstrated its relevance to everyday life. Parents and guardians were equally moved by the program's impact. Many expressed gratitude for giving their children a sense of purpose and confidence. One mother tearfully thanked Emily during a community event, saying, "My son used to hate school. He thought he wasn't smart enough. But now, he talks about becoming an engineer. You've changed his life." Hearing such feedback reinforced Emily's belief in the importance of accessibility and inclusivity in education. She often reflected on how her own path might have been easier if someone had extended a helping hand when she needed it most. Now she was determined to be that person for others, ensuring that no one felt excluded or overlooked, while math without limits flourished. Emily's personal life underwent significant changes as well. The demands of her career and outreach efforts left little time for rest, yet she found joy in every challenge. Her relationship with Dr. Carter deepened into a close friendship built on trust and mutual admiration. Though they came from vastly different backgrounds, they complemented each other perfectly. Where Emily was intuitive and empathetic, Dr. Carter was analytical and strategic. Together, they balanced each other's strengths and weaknesses, creating a dynamic partnership that benefited everyone around them. Their collaboration extended beyond professional projects. On weekends, they often spent hours discussing ideas over coffee or taking long walks through the park. These conversations weren't limited to math. They covered everything from philosophy to music to their hopes for the future. Emily cherished these moments, finding comfort in the fact that she had someone who understood her completely. Despite her growing fame, Emily remained grounded. She still lived in the same modest apartment she had rented years ago, filling it with books, plants, and handmade decorations. Friends teased her about upgrading to a fancier place, but she shrugged off their suggestions. "This is home," she would say with a smile. "Why change something that makes me happy?" Her humility endeared her to those around her, earning her respect not just as a mathematician but as a human being. Colleagues admired her ability to stay true to herself despite the pressures of success, while students looked up to her as a role model who embodied kindness and resilience. As the years passed, Emily's legacy continued to expand. Her research, papers were cited in prestigious journals, her lectures were recorded and shared online, and her name became synonymous with innovation and perseverance. Yet she never lost sight of why she had started this journey: to make a difference, however small, in the lives of others. One evening, after delivering a keynote speech at a global conference, Emily stood on the stage, gazing out at the audience. The room was filled with applause, but she felt a quiet sense of fulfillment that surpassed any external validation. She thought back to the days when she had sat alone in coffee shops, scribbling equations in a notebook, wondering if anyone would ever notice her work. Now here she was, standing before thousands of people who hung on her every word. Dr. Carter joined her on stage, clapping along with the crowd. When the applause finally subsided, he leaned in and whispered, "You've come a long way, Emily." Proud doesn't even begin to cover it. Emily smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "We've come a long way," she corrected him softly. "None of this would have happened without you." It was true. Their partnership had been instrumental in shaping the course of her life. But more than that, it symbolized the power of collaboration and the beauty of lifting each other up. As they walked off stage together, hand in hand, Emily knew that their journey was far from over. There were still challenges to face, discoveries to make, and lives to touch, and she couldn't wait to see what the future held. Years had passed since Emily Dawson first walked into the coffee shop with nothing but a notebook and a dream. Now, her name was known far beyond the walls of Elmridge University, echoing in classrooms, research labs, and even policy discussions about education reform. Her story had become a beacon of hope for countless individuals who felt trapped by circumstances or doubted their potential. Yet, despite her achievements, Emily remained steadfast in her belief that true success wasn't measured by accolades or titles. It was found in the lives she touched and the barriers she helped others overcome. One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves swirled in the wind outside her office window, Emily sat at her desk reviewing applications for the upcoming Year's Math Without Limits program. The stack of papers before her represented dreams waiting to be nurtured, students from diverse backgrounds eager to learn and grow. Each application told a unique story: a teenager working part-time jobs to support their family while excelling in math, a single mother determined to return to school after years away, a young boy fascinated by puzzles and patterns, hoping someone would take his curiosity seriously. Reading these stories filled Emily with both pride and responsibility. She knew firsthand how much a little encouragement could mean to someone struggling to find their place in the world. As she sifted through the applications, Dr. Adrian Carter knocked lightly on her open door before stepping inside. He carried 2 cups of coffee, one for her and one for himself, and slid into the chair across from her desk. "How's it going?" he asked, handing her a cup. Emily smiled gratefully, taking a sip before answering. "It's inspiring," she said, gesturing toward the pile of applications. "Every year I'm amazed by the passion and determination of these students. It reminds me why we started this." Dr. Carter nodded thoughtfully. "And every year you prove that talent isn't limited to those with privilege or connections. You've given so many people a chance they might not have had otherwise." Emily shook her head modestly. "We've done it together. None of this would exist without your support, or the support of everyone who believes in what we're doing." Dr. Carter chuckled softly. "Still deflecting credit, I see. But you're right. It's been a team effort. Still, there's no denying that you're the heart of this movement." His words made Emily pause. She looked down at the applications again, reflecting on how far she had come. From being an unknown woman solving equations in a cafe to becoming a global figure, advocating for inclusivity in mathematics, her journey had been anything but ordinary. Yet she never let herself forget where she had started, or the challenges she had faced along the way. Later that week, Emily traveled to New York City to deliver a speech at a major educational summit. The event brought together leaders from various fields to discuss how to create more equitable opportunities for underserved communities. As she stood backstage, waiting for her turn to speak, Emily felt a mix of nerves and excitement. This platform was larger than any she had addressed before, and she knew her words had the power to inspire change. When her name was called, she stepped onto the stage, greeted by thunderous applause. The audience included teachers, policymakers, business leaders, and activists, all united by a shared desire to make the world a better place. Emily took a deep breath and began speaking, her voice steady and clear. "I stand here today not just as a mathematician but as someone who once doubted whether my dreams were possible," she said, her eyes scanning the crowd. "I grew up loving numbers, yet I was told time and again that I didn't belong in the world of academia. For years I believed them. But then, something changed. Someone saw potential in me when I couldn't see it myself. That act of belief transformed my life, and now I dedicate myself to paying it forward." The room fell silent as Emily recounted her journey, weaving personal anecdotes with broader reflections on systemic inequality. She spoke passionately about the importance of access to quality education, the need to challenge stereotypes, and the transformative power of mentorship. By the end of her speech, the audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation, moved by her authenticity and conviction. Afterward, dozens of attendees approached her to express gratitude or share their own stories. One man, a high school principal from a low-income district, thanked her for reminding him why he had chosen his profession. "Your words reignited my purpose," he said sincerely. "I'll carry them back to my students." Moments like these reminded Emily that her work extended far beyond equations and formulas. It was about building bridges, connecting people, ideas, and possibilities. Back at Elmridge University, Emily continued to balance her roles as a researcher, educator, and advocate. Her days were long and demanding, but she thrived on the energy of collaboration and discovery. Students sought her guidance not only in math but also in navigating life's uncertainties. Faculty members admired her ability to inspire creativity and resilience in others. Even strangers reached out to thank her for showing them that brilliance could emerge from unexpected places. One evening, as snow began to fall outside her apartment window, Emily sat curled up on the couch with a cup of tea. Across from her, Dr. Carter flipped through a photo album they had recently created, a collection of memories from their years of partnership. There were pictures of conferences, workshops, community events, and quiet moments spent brainstorming ideas over coffee. Each image captured a piece of their journey together. "You know," Dr. Carter said, pointing to a photo of Emily addressing a group of students, "you've changed more lives than you realize, not just theirs, but mine too." Emily raised, an eyebrow amused. "Yours? How so?" He smiled, leaning back in his chair. "You've taught me the value of humility and compassion. Before I met you, I thought toughness was the key to success. But watching you connect with people has shown me that kindness is just as powerful, if not more." Emily laughed softly, touched by his honesty. "Well, maybe we've both learned a thing or two along the way." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, reflecting on all they had accomplished together. Though neither of them could predict what the future held, they knew one thing for certain. Their partnership had made a lasting impact, not only on each other, but on the countless lives they had influenced. In the years that followed, Emily's legacy continued to grow. Math Without Lives expanded to include international chapters, reaching students in remote villages and war-torn regions. Her research contributed to advancements in technology, healthcare, and environmental sustainability. And her story inspired books, documentaries, and even a feature film chronicling her rise from obscurity to prominence. Yet through it all, Emily remained unchanged. She still visited her favorite coffee shop, still scribbled equations in notebooks, and still believed fiercely in the power of perseverance. To her, success wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about leaving the world a little better than she had found it. On a quiet spring afternoon as she strolled through the park, near campus, Emily paused beneath a blooming cherry tree. The petals drifted lazily to the ground, painting the earth in soft pink hues. She closed her eyes, breathing in the fresh air, and smiled. Life had taken her on an incredible journey, full of challenges and triumphs. But as she stood there, surrounded by beauty and possibility, she felt nothing but gratitude for the path she had traveled and for the infinite road still ahead.